Hello, everyone. My name is Redbeard, and today I want to do just a sort of a reaction video. I don't love doing reaction videos, but people wanted to know some of my thoughts about how or what we know of the Omens of Destruction um, so far, and I haven't done a video in a while, so thought I'd do something quick, a little riffing on my thoughts on that. So, Skull Taker. We've gotten a pretty full detailed view of his campaign. We got all the units. We pretty much know everything we need to know for Khorne except for Arball, which you know I the only thing I have to say about Arball is that I imagine that he'll have a death ability um, that turns him into a blood beast, a single entity blood beast, which is one of the units, which I'll talk more about in a bit. I assume he'll be a semi unique looking model too, similar to Silent Infangrim, maybe not as big. Um, Something between the Blood Beast unit and Silent Infangrim he'll turn into uh, when he dies, I imagine. Or maybe it's like if he falls below a certain health threshold. Also, as far as starting position, I haven't seen anything about them expanding Ind, the lands of Ind, so far. Um, if they do, I imagine he'll start there. But since I haven't seen anything yet, maybe he'll start sort of up near the eastern steppes, or maybe he'll start kind of above Ulthuan. But yeah, other than that, Arball, from what we've seen, looks pretty good. He's going to have his Fleshhound, unique Fleshhound mount. Um, he looks pretty great. Then, so for Skull Taker, um, and for his mechanics, they look great. I think the thing I'm most excited about, the best change coming with this whole DLC that I've seen thus far, is the demonic reforging. So, not just Khorne, but all demons. So, Nurgle, Tzeentch, Slaanesh are now going to have basically the vampire mechanic where there's a chance after the battle, if there's high corruption in the region, um, there's a chance that any defeated units will come back. So any of your demonic units have a chance. They'll still have the crumbling, but they have a chance after the battle to return to your army. Which, yes, chef's kiss. Like, that's gonna make demons so much more playable for me. Like, that's gonna make all the demons like so much better to play. That again, my favorite change I've heard of thus far. Um, but yeah, so looking at like the mechanics of the three lords, I did say, I think in my last video that I wasn't too impressed from the scant offering details we've heard thus far about the mechanics. Um, Skull Taker, I've changed my mind about because though they're not like necessarily focusing on the ancient forge bit where you can like sacrifice skulls and like open portals to Khorne's realm. There's a lot of the bones of all the things I wanted for Skull Taker, so it's not exactly how I envisioned it, but yeah, I really like what I see with the Cloak of Skulls. His teleport mechanic, it looks really cool where you gotta get essence and like different lords have higher amounts of essence depending on how many battles they've won. I think that's all really, really, really good. So I've definitely changed my mind on Skull Taker. Um, Now that we've had more details, actually. On the other hand, I'm not so certain that Golg and Gorbad I'm going to change my mind about, because Golg, I was hoping he would have contracts like we've heard about, but also that he would have, you know, the ability to customize man-eaters, essentially. It looks like we're just getting Golg's man-eaters as a unit, and yes, I'm leaving out part of his name on purpose. You know, it's just kind of unfortunate naming. Um, and then, so yeah, no customizable man-eaters from what I've seen for Golg. Uh, which was really the big part for me. Then Gorbad, it looks like there's no kind of sub race of Biggins, and oh man, Gorbad, I'll get back to him, but so far he's like maybe my favorite Greenskin character. I love Greenskins, but he's maybe my favorite. I just feel like they got him wrong. I feel like they got him really wrong personally, but I'll get back to that. So, focusing on Khorne. So there's Skull Taker, and excuse me, I'm sick, so apologize for having to like catch my breath a little bit here and there. But so yeah, Skull Taker looks like he's going to be an absolute menace on the battlefield. Definitely a top tier duelist up there with Skarbrand, Tyrion. And then once you get the Cloak of Skulls going, maybe he could even surpass them. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see when we get our hands on it. So before I look at units, so the Khorne rework had with the skulls for the Skull Throne, you can sacrifice the skulls for like different things now, and some of the top tier ones are like you can fully replenish your army, which is really good, or you can summon a blood host directly to your faction leader, also very good. So the Khorne rework and the technology tree has two different branches now, kind of like Chaos Dwarfs, which is like love it. And like the tech tree is based on like who you've killed in battle. Yeah, the Khorne rework looks really good. So for legendary heroes, now getting into the units, Silent Infantgrim looks like just a big old monstrous infantry. Like he's just a big old monster. Not even I don't even know if he's monstrous infantry, just monster. Looks really good, but I'm more excited for Scar Bloodwrath because he looks like he's going to be a top tier legendary hero because it's going to be really hard to kill him. So like if he gets below a certain health threshold, he's going to get a giant boost of health. I imagine that'll only happen once per battle. But also, he gets health in melee, essentially like Gore Feast. So if he's in melee, he's constantly healing. I imagine, there's a certain threshold once you heal X amount, you can't heal anymore, so it's not completely broken. But then there's the Blood Speaker, which, the model looks a little uninspired compared to like AOS models of like different blood priests or blood secretors, and it's almost like with Games Workshop, they're like, oh, let's give all the really cool and unique models to Age of Sigmar, and Warhammer Fantasy has to have all the boring, mundane models. So they're different. I hate it. I'm sure somebody will give us like a mod that gives them like something closer to like an AOS model. It's a nitpick. I think the Blood Speakers are going to be a really good Lord option. Hopefully they have like Horse and War Shrine mounts. I think those make sense because it's going to be a support Lord primarily. And I think it'll be able to like convert kills into maybe spell-like abilities. Typical priest archetype Lord or hero. So, melee infantry. So we got Khorne Gores, which have absolute garbage melee stats, but they're supposed to, once they get into battle, get an ability which boosts their melee stats. So, I haven't seen what that is yet, so maybe they're not as bad as they look. They're Even though they wield great weapons, they're more of like a halberd unit because they're anti-large. So having a vanguard anti-large unit is going to be something unique. So I think they will be good. It's just kind of hard to tell thus far. Then we get into Skull Reapers and Wrathmongers. So starting with Skull Reapers, they say more than once in the different trailers that the Skull Reapers are like Chaos Warriors of Khorne with less armor. But when you look at their stats, they got like 60 entities, which is similar to Depth Guard from Vampire Coast. But they kind of have like, yeah, they have similar stats. That they have elite stats. So I don't know if I'd compare them to Chaos Warriors of Khorne. I almost feel like they're saying that they won't be a unit you can upgrade from chosen into aspiring champions. Like we were all hoping for that, like you could upgrade your chaos or chosen of Khorne into Skull Reapers or Wrathmongers. It looks like Skull Reapers are going to be an offshoot unit rather than part of that system. Wrathmongers, on the other hand, we haven't seen. I hope they are you can still are, like you can upgrade your Chosen of Khorne into Wrathmongers as the aspiring champion. You know, I hope they are pursuing that. One of Skull Reapers or Wrathmongers need to be the aspiring champion of Khorne. And I also believe that we, again, need aspiring champions for all the mono gods. Putrid Blight Kings for Nurgle. Maybe Anointed for Slaanesh, even though they're elves, they would be more of an offshoot. You know, maybe you could have something like the Myrmidesh Painbringers, or the other one that's similar for Slaanesh. And then Tzeentch, you just have to make one up. But the Raven Host from Tcharzanek could be a great inspiration for Tzeentch. But yeah, Wrathmongers, the Skull Reapers look really good. They're going to be, you know, they have the dual weapon type. So they're going to be anti-infantry. I almost wish they went with the great weapon variant, which would be a little more, you know, different than Wrathmongers. You know, because Wrathmongers are wielding dual flails. They're going to be very similar to Doom Seekers. They even have the same entity count. They're going to have like 80 armor. So they're going to be better than Doom Seekers. They're going to be really good. Really, really good. Like, possibly one of the best. Definitely one of the best melee infantry in the game. But yeah, they better be aspiring champions. Monstrous infantry, Blood Beasts of Khorne. So they're going to be a 16 entity unit, which was not expecting. They ended up going with more of the gorilla version. There's also an old model which makes it more of like a, not quite a Fleshhound of Khorne, but like, you know, a four-legged beast like that, rather than the gorilla thing. But Scylla Infangrim is a blood beast, so it makes sense to go that way. So, but yeah, they made it a 16 entity unit, which makes me think, as far as like greater chaos of spawn, we kind of already have it for Nurgle with the Beast of Nurgle. We kind of already have it with the Fiends of Slaanesh, even though there's another unique model they could use for like a greater Fiend of Slaanesh. So after this, we're really only missing the Fireworm for Tzeentch, which, those who don't know, Fireworm would essentially be like, if they went with a single entity model, it would be like the Ancient Salamander from Lizardmen, but, you know, with Warp Flame attacks. Or if they went for like something like this, like a 16 entity or something unit, it would be like the Salamander pack with Warp Flame. But yeah, Blood Beasts of Khorne, they look really good. They, you know, kind of similar profile to like Kroxigor or Sacred Kroxigors. Sort of in that same ballpark. They look like they're going to be really good. Then the Slaughter Brute. definitely looks awesome. Definitely has its rule that if from like tabletop where if your lord is alive, it's gonna get boosted stats. If your lord dies, it's just gonna rampage until it routs, which perfect. And its stats look really good. It's gonna be a menace on the battlefield. Um, yeah, not much else to say about it. But yeah, so going on to ogres, gold maneater. Uh, again, so I'm gonna have less to say about ogres and greenskins just because we have less details so far. I may do another video like this once we've gotten all the details for those guys. But yeah, gold maneater so far so good. I like that he has a bound ability where he can use his pistol. Hopefully that has like a good amount of uses. Like I hope it's more than 3. Like I hope it's like 5 to 10 uses of this pistol that have a fairly short cooldown. But yeah, I imagine he's going to be like an anti-infantry type lord with his dual weapons. And I think he's going to be more armored than Scrag or Greasus. And, again, his contract system so far sounds pretty good. I really wish we had customizable man-eaters. But, you can check video in top right where I talk more about that. And then Bragg the Gutsman, I'm conflicted on because I knew it was going to be him for the legendary hero. I really think he's a cool character, but I think his model is just goofy, man. Like when you look at all his artwork and even like his tabletop mini, he looks creepy. He looks super pale. He looks like the Grim Reaper in an ogre version, This is supposed to be the ogre that all other ogres, like, quiver when they see him, This guy just looks goofy, man. Like, I was expecting a creepy dude, not a goofy dude. So, kind of sort of a nitpick, but also, like, I just feel like they got his model a little bit wrong. I'm sure a mod will come along that'll make him a little creepier looking. Lord, Paymaster. Paymaster looks really good. He's got the Lookout Noblar. He's got all the chests. I haven't seen anything about him having a pistol, which I also think, like Golg, he should have a pistol ability. So we have a generic semi-ranged Lord. I suppose we could get like a Ogre Hunter Lord in the future for a ranged Lord. But, yeah. I think the Paymaster should have a pistol. Otherwise, it looks really good. Nice, good support Lord. Yeah. He should have a way to have less upkeep for his armory, probably, too. But, yeah. Bruiser hero. Not much to say. He's literally the melee hero that we've needed. Hopefully he gets mounts, though. A Mournfang and or Rhinox. But maybe the Bruiser should get a Mournfang and then the Tyrant should get a Rhinox. Or Tyrant should get Mournfang and Rhinox. But yeah, moving on to the units. Noblar Pigback Riders. Of all the Noblar units, I would not have picked the Pigback Riders. They're a meme, Like, they're kind of like a pseudo cavalry. They'll have like the best charge bonus of any Noblar unit, I'm sure. But they're also like a pseudo tanky unit, anti-large unit, so they'll have better anti-large and charge defense than any other Noblar unit. So, they certainly fill a role, but bit of a meme. Not my first pick of the Noblar Hordes units. And then we have Blood Vultures, which, I'm sure they'll have some synchronicity with your Ogre Hunter heroes. So if you have a Ogre Hunter hero in your army, all your Blood Vultures and Saber Tusks are going to be getting buffs. Otherwise, I think the Blood Vultures are just going to be a reskin of the Carrion from the Tomb Kings roster, which not a bad thing. But yeah, I think they'll be a really nice addition to the roster, as they'll be the only flying unit and just a generally good harassing unit, especially for backlines and cavalry and such. So then moving on to monstrous infantry. So we have Golgs, insert space man-eaters, which look like they're just going to give us, because for man-eaters right now we have the regular version, the cheapest of the version, which is just like they have a single hand weapon. Then there's the Iron Fists, so like a shielded quote unquote version, and then a great weapon version. So these guys are just going to give us a anti-infantry option, and they'll probably be the most elite of all of those man-eaters, which I imagine those other man-eaters are going to get like bumped down a tier maybe, and then Golg's man-eaters will be the tier 5 version, and maybe they have like one unique like passive or something. Then on to Yetis. So Yetis, not much to say about them. They're kind of sort of like Gorgers in that they'll be like a sort of like a flank type unit. They'll have the ice aura, which and frostbite attacks, which will debuff enemy units. I'm sure they'll be pretty good. Monsters, the Thunder Tusk. So I think this is going to be like a missile monster where it shoots ice balls, and it also has some guys on the back throwing javelins, I believe. And then it'll have an ice aura like the Yetis, so it'll be debuffing, frostbite, all that stuff. Otherwise, just kind of like a bigger Stormhorn, I think. So it'll be a great unit. I'm excited to play with it. And then we have one ROR, which is the Eshin Man-Eater. So we have one unique Man-Eater. If they're going this like almost pseudo-legendary hero ROR Man-Eater route, there's also like the Arabian Dervish, the like Halfling Cook, and then the Empire Great Hammer guy, and I suppose there's like also the like pirate one. So if we're going that route, give us the other unique ones at some point, please. And then moving on to Greenskins, which, as far as Gorbet Ironclaw, is maybe my biggest disappointment in this whole DLC so far. So, if you look at old lore and artwork for Gorbet Ironclaw, he has a... First off, his boar, Narla, is monstrous, not puny. Second, his namesake, Ironclaw, he has... One of his gauntlets has clawed fingers. It is like bigger than the other gauntlet. It gives a reason for the Ironclaw name. He was said to have dented the gates of Karazakarak with this gauntlet when he banged on them. But so they went with the tabletop model, which the tabletop model is good, but they like almost went completely for the tabletop model, but they missed the coolest part of it, which is the chain that connects Morglor the Mangler to his other gauntlet, which would make it essentially a like a Doomseeker or a Wrathmonger, where he can swing it out and cause a lot of splash damage with that axe. In in one of the tabletop discussions where they showed the concept art, he still had the chain connected to Morglor the Mangler. But then we see the trailers come out, in the last week or so, and they took the chain off. Probably because they didn't want to deal with having to do the splash attack thing. It's like, you missed all the cool parts of Gorbat Ironclaw. As far as, like, his model and how he'll, like, fight in battle. He doesn't have a monstrous boar. He doesn't have the chain-swinging axe. He doesn't have the clawed gauntlet. You took all his cool parts away. He's, like, lame now. Ugh. It's massively disappointing, because I loved Gorbat Ironclaw. Like, don't get me wrong. My thought was they would, like, the best, most ideal version would be mixing, like, the old artwork of Gorbat Ironclaw with the tabletop model. Like, give him, the red armor, give Narla the, like, yellow armor with the red sun on it or whatever. And make Narla have the, the missing tusk, but make Narla monstrous sized. Keep the chain on Morglor the Mangler connected to the gauntlet, and make one of the other gauntlet have the actual claw part. Ugh. I don't want to go on too long about it, but I'm quite disappointed with Gorbat Ironclaw's general implementation, but also his mechanic. I mean, we haven't seen everything with it yet, but the plan so far, it just sounds like if you have different army compositions, you will get different buffs. Which, whatever that means, we haven't seen the details, so I'll try to hold as much judgment as possible. Like, that's part of what I wanted for Gorbat Ironclaw, but also his tabletop rule, he can take all of his orcs and upgrade them to biggins, but also in the lore, we know that his biggins are a cut above other biggins. So that's why I, in multiple videos, said he should have a biggin subrace with a couple of unique biggins, like the River Raiders, which, I think we're getting Ruglud's armored orcs as an ROR. They're, like, in the trailer, I think, but they have dual hand weapons instead of crossbows, so that's not Ruglud's armored orcs. I get that Greenskins were added as, Khorne and Ogres need a lot of work, so the third faction being Greenskins, who don't need a lot of work necessarily, as far as, like, reworks. That makes sense. But, like, I really feel like they missed the ball on aspects of the Greenskins. Yeah. Like, the River Raiders should be biggin archers. God, if there was one variant to give us, it would have been biggin archers, not black orcs with shields, but I'll get back to that. So, and then we get Snagla Grobspit as a legendary hero. Like, of all three of these races, we still need another DLC for Greenskins. We do, 100%. Like, we need a Forest Goblin focused DLC. So adding Snagla Grobspit, Arachnarok Flingers in this DLC just doesn't really make sense to me. Like, I get they were going for, like, a broad strokes, like a little bit of everything of the different Greenskin cultures with Gorbat, and he's the character to do that with. But, like, why not give us Gatilla the Hunter as a legendary hero, or Borgat Facebeater, or Graka Gorax? Like, there's better options for this DLC. Though I am happy we're getting Snagla Grobspit. Don't get me wrong. He should have anti-large melee, but also he should have maybe it's a bound ability where it's a ranged snipe attack, or maybe he has a bow. I'm not, he should have a mix of ways to fight. Yeah. His spider almost looks like it's the size of a gigantic spider, like a monstrous sized. I'm not sure that it is. I do hope we get gigantic spiders at some point, but I think that would be, again, in a Forest Goblin DLC. Check top right where I talk a lot about Forest Goblins in general. Then for our generic lord, this is exactly what I wanted. Savage Orc Great Shaman. So the Savage Orc Great Shaman is... Well, you see it briefly in the trailer. It's based off like the old model of the Savage Orc Great Shaman, which is awesome. I am sure it will ride a boar and a wyvern. It should ride a wyvern too. But yeah, this finally gives us a caster of the lore of Big Wa, and gives us a Savage Orc lord to lead our armies for Wurzag campaigns. Huge win as far as the generic lord, for sure. That's definitely what needed to be the option. Now, I'll make a video of what comes later for Greenskins. But so for the hero, Night Goblin Big Boss, I probably would have gone Savage Orc Big Boss here, but I think this is the next best choice because a Night Goblin Big Boss gives us basically like a squig herder hero. They, alluded to the fact that the Night Goblin Big Boss will buff squigs. Hopefully gets like a squig mount, an armored squig mount, maybe a colossal squig mount. Or a Mangler squig mount. I doubt it, but yeah, we already have a Night Goblin Shaman hero, I believe. Yeah. So we didn't. I don't really know if we needed another hero for the Night Goblins. Ideally, by the end, we'll have at least one generic lord and one generic hero for all 6 of the Greenskin subcultures, main subcultures at least, being orcs, savage orcs, black orcs, goblins, night goblins, forest goblins. But yeah. Then we get on to the units, starting with black orcs with shields, which is really the only real disappointment here. And I've seen other YouTubers and people be like defending this black orcs with shields. Like, dude, we're getting FLC variants at this point, and that's the way it should be. Just because we got weapon variants in DLC, as in like DLC slots in the past, does not mean that we should going forward. Like, we went through a whole thing where, the community basically was like, we're not going to take any of this shit anymore. We're not going to take the, being nickel and dimed. And now we're getting snuck in a little nickel and diming with black orcs with shields. Black orcs should just have the arm to the teeth rule. It's completely possible to just add this into the game. Just, you click a button and it morphs the unit into the variant unit. They should have, great weapons, halberds, dual hand weapons, and shields. They should just be able to change on the fly. And if you really can't like make them morph in battle, then make it in the pre-battle screen that you can basically just change which variant the black orc is. But foregoing all of that, if we're doing just straight up weapon variants units and no arm to the teeth rule, they should be free units. Like, this should not be taking a DLC slot. I heartily disagree with anybody that says otherwise. Yeah. Or, to each their own, I suppose. But I don't think this should be taking up a DLC unit. Whilst we still are missing plenty. There's plenty of greenskin units missing. Like Squig Gabas, that's a disappointment. That of all the Squig units I wanted to see, it was Squig Gaba. Because I feel like that just offers the most unique thing to the roster, being like a monstrous artillery. But what do I know? um, you know, or Savage Orc Big Stabbers, which I definitely thought were coming with this DLC. You know, give us like a kind of probably like a warp grinder type unit, but just focused on like anti-large monster killing. Um, but we get Black Orcs with shields and whatever. But onto lighter subjects, we get Mangler Squigs, which of all the squigs I thought we were going to get, I thought this was the least likely. But we're getting them. And holy moly. Their animations look very silly, but like awesome at the same time. I'm sure they will be huge blob disruptors. I imagine, I mean, I imagine they won't be able to stop moving. They might have a rule where they're just like constantly rampaging. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm definitely excited to see these guys in action more. Then Colossal Squigs. That was like a shoe-in. That was going to be the big beastie. It's cool. I'm sure it has like a vomit ability in the trailer, which looks cool. I'm sure it's going to have a death burst, like in tabletop. So if it dies, it blows up, damaging units around it. I'm sure it's going to be a fast, really good at, hunting down characters, lords and heroes. Sure, it'll be good anti-infantry as well. And in the trailer, it busts down the gate, so maybe it has, like, some type of, like, can attack walls, maybe. Then for artillery, we get the bolt thrower, which, again, it's kind of just like a reskin of the Dwarven bolt thrower, I'm sure. But I figured it would be part of this DLC. That makes sense to me. But then we get the Ragnarok Flinger, which, again, this is a variant. I mean, it's different enough, I suppose. But B, definitely would have made... It makes more sense in, like, a Forest Goblin themed DLC as, like, the big unit, if you're going to do it that way. Yeah, mixed feelings about it, but overall, I'm just glad we're getting the Ragnarok Flinger, because, I mean, what an awesome unit, right? You get an Ragnarok, and it's got, like, a catapult on it. The Flinger will shoot out a ball of webs, which, it's supposed to have, like, spiders in it as well. So when it lands, it'll, like, it'll web everybody, slowing them down. But it'll also have all these little tiny spiders, that will bite you and poison you. So besides just being, webbed and can't move for however long, you're also poisoned. And possibly taking damage over time from that. Greenskins, definitely the biggest miss of the three for me. Khorne looks amazing. Ogres, pretty good for the most part. Greenskins, definitely a lot to love here. Definitely some things that are mostly Gorbad, man. Ugh. It's mostly Gorbad. Like, again, one of my favorite characters. It's just those three things, right? Narla would have been way better as monstrous sized. That would add something way more unique. Like, oh great, we're getting another one of the same puny boars that nobody likes to play with. I mean, hopefully boars are just getting a revamp in general with this. We'll have to wait and see. But it would have been better if he had like a part of his big and sub race, like just a new unit specifically for his faction, which are monstrous sized cavalry boar riders. I digress. But yeah, so that's one for Gorbad Enclave. Two, he should have the chain on Morgul the Mangler so he can use it kind of like a Doomseeker or a Wrathmonger. And then three, his other gauntlet should have the claws, which might give him like a unique ability where he can like grab a hero and like sunder their armor for like 30 seconds or something and make them not be able to move. Not that he's supposed to be like a duelist, like as much as like somebody like Grimgor. Like Grimgor should win in a 1v1, but he should be still like be able to beat any other orc in a duel besides maybe Gorfang Raka if we get him as FLC at some point, hopefully. Man, yeah. If CA doesn't get to fixing him before launch, I really hope that somebody makes a mod that fixes those things that I just was talking about. But this video has already gone on long enough, so I'm gonna cut it there. And just tell me your thoughts in the comments. I've been working on a slew of videos, like I always am, but just haven't had a lot of time. I've been sick a lot, Nurgle blessing me all over the place. And, I just have to, I have to work for a living. So, but yeah, I've been working on some, like, Slanesh video, like, and some elves for the next DLC, like High Elves, Dark Elves. But then I also want to do some Norska, because that's definitely in the purview in the future. But I do not think Norska should be part of the Slanesh DLC. No, sir. No, sir. Norska needs a full Champions of Chaos style pack. And while I'm on it, I don't think any Mono God Norscan characters should be in the Norska roster. They should be in the Mono God rosters. So, like Egil Steerborn, he should be part of the Khorne roster if we ever get him. Gutrot Spume should be part of the Nurgle roster if we ever get him. I think Norska needs to stay like an undivided thing. It can't just be completely chaos. Again, unless we've already gotten Sal the Faithless, Mona Mim, Bjorg Bearstruck, and Lord Mortkin. Those are the 4 characters we need as legendary lords for Norska. If you want to give Egil or Gutrot to Norska after that, fine. But again, I just think they should be part of the Mono God roster anyways. Maybe as like hybrid Norska factions. But now I'm ranting again. So, if there's any particular videos you want to see, tell me. I definitely... Oh, I also have, at some point when the time is right, amongst the DLC hype train for Omens of Destruction, I want to do what's missing for these 3 factions, which beware anyone who says, oh, this faction is done. Oh, they're done. Like, this is Warhammer Fantasy. There's always something you can dig more. Now, I'm not saying you always should or need to, but beware anybody says that they're just done, because that's almost never the case. I can and probably will make the argument for Khorne and Ogres still being able to get another DLC, but I could also make the argument the other way. But since most people are already making the argument the other way, I will play the devil's advocate. Anyways, we're going to cut it there. Tell me what you think in comments. Thanks for being here. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks. Peace.